Hey everyone, welcome back to Tracer Burnout. I'm Roger.
And I'm Dan.
And we have some good news. Fundraiser update. A little over a week ago, we launched a fundraiser with our good friends over at Heroes Harvest, a great nonprofit that is dedicated to getting disabled veterans out into the outdoor spaces. So we had a fundraiser with them, and we exceeded our fundraising goal in less than 48 hours.
Outstanding.
So really, really great news there. That's all thanks to y'all. So we really appreciate that. If you missed this round, no worries. We will do things like this from time to time with Heroes Harvest and other great nonprofits. So thanks again for that.
Yes. And another thank you from Miss Ivy Krieger, guest from a few episodes ago. She is the marketing director for McTavish Whiskey, and she sent us a bottle of the War Chief blend.
Excellent.
Which, based on the name alone, sounds amazing.
We're going to have to do some research on the topic.
Yes. So we will conduct our research responsibly. And we will get back to you with how it is. Thanks, Ivy.
Yeah, appreciate that. Also, today's August 15th, our day we're recording, and it is VJ Day.
Victory over Japan.
So, 79 years since this day. So, thank you so much to all of our World War II veterans who just did a little thing like saving the world and created the world that we now find ourselves in. Although some people may not be so grateful for that. But again, thank you to our World War II veterans. They're called the greatest generation.
From two veterans to an entire generation of veterans.
Yes, absolutely. Also, today is the 3-year anniversary of the creation of our good friends over at Aerial Resupply Coffee.
Hey. So, way to go, Mike and team.
That's
Golf
right.
Clap.
So kudos to them. If you want to support them and us, head on over to aerialresupplycoffee.com and use promo code TracerBurnout. You'll get 10% off. It helps both of us. We also have a link on the banner at the top of our website, tracerburnout.com. You can click on that and it will automatically do the 10% off. So either way. So thank you. Go get you a good cup of joe.
Now, for the audio-only listeners, we have a podcast update. Our international journey continues. We voyage onward.
Yes.
To the South Pacific, Indonesia, and to faraway, exotic locale, Canada.
America's hat.
Yes.
You know, I take exception to referring to Indonesia as the South Pacific.
Is it not?
It's Southeast Asia.
Is it?
It is indeed.
Quibbling. But anyway.
Not to be confused with a quisling.
But anyway, our international journey continues, and we appreciate all of you for spreading the message and getting the word out, and continue to pass it on to friends and family that live abroad, coworkers presently or formerly that also live abroad. Shoot them a link of your favorite episode, and let our international journey continue.
Yes. Our trek across Southeast Asia. We want the Philippines and Malaysia next.
Sure.
We present to you our guest, Mr. Enrique Ranger Rick Murillo. Stay tuned.
Hi, Rick. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Do you prefer Rick or Ricky?
Rick.
Rick? Okay. Rick, before we get started and really go any further, you have a fabulous beard.
Thank you. I try. You know, it was actually all black and dark, but then I got married.
But I see you've embraced your gentlemanly gray, unlike some of us who use just for men and lie about it.
There is some gray in here. Now, Roger is actually about 18 months younger than me.
Yeah.
And his is almost completely white.
I have 3 daughters.
He has 3 daughters.
There you go.
So that obviously...
So you are younger than him?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh. You look real young. I don't know. It's the color, because I used to dye my beard black too, you know. And then my wife said it looked stupid.
No, I've got some gray in here, but it's just not. The stress hasn't forced it out of me yet. So. But thanks for joining us, man. We really appreciate it. We know you got a lot going on. You're a busy guy, so we tend to get started with just a very basic family background sort of thing. So does your family have a history of service?
No, they do not. So, you know, I was born in Belize. So I was born in Belize, Central America. grew up in New Jersey with my mom, my sisters, my stepdad. Never really knew anything about the military until I was part of a Youth Corps AmeriCorps program, and they had a Vietnam exhibit that traveled from school to school, and it was basically items that were left at the wall and the stories that were left behind them, the actual stories, and they would hold an assembly at these schools, and just reading it, and where families would come up and read it, that was it. And I really never thought of anything else besides that, than joining the military. And that's it. So, but after I joined the military, my sister joined the military.
Okay. How old were you when you immigrated to the United States?
I was 7 years old.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, you were young.
Yes.
So English was not your first language.
It was.
It was?
In
Okay.
Belize, English is actually the first language. It's more like a broken English, like Jamaican.
Okay.
So it would sound like that.
Like a different dialect, really.
Just like that, and Spanish was the second.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Belize one of the only other countries in the world besides the U.S. that still uses the English system?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than metric?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's some deep trivia right there.
Yes,
That is.
we are not a third world country.
Okay. So why the Army?
My mom actually. So go back. I got taken out of school because I was acting up, and she put me into this Youth Corps AmeriCorps program in Jersey City College. So basically, you get paid to go to school to get your GED. In return, you have 3 programs. You can either work on a rescue squad, work as an admin, or work in the museum. It was a children's museum, but it was also the Vietnam Museum that traveled, so that was part of that. So I chose to go EMS. So I went to EMS, and I'm like, wow, I get paid to go to school. It's so cool. I actually ended up getting my EMT basic before I got my GED. So that was one of the great things about that. So I became an AmeriCorps alumni. Worked on a rescue squad, worked on a transport company, and that was it. Just enjoying life. And she decided to go to the recruiter and sign me up, in a sense, like give the recruiter my number, basically. So he would call me. We had cell phones, those little silver T-Mobile or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
They were. Yeah. So I would get this phone call.
For context, what year is this?
This is 1997.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So 97 was when I got my EMT and then my GED, and then early 98 I was working and doing all this stuff, and that's when she went, and then I finally got tired of him calling me. So I said, let's do it. So I went and took the test, decided to join the Army, finished recruiter's a recruiter, come to find out, all I know now, that he had a CIB on, but yet he told me it was a 13 Fox. So it was okay. So as a 13 Fox, I was like, what does that guy do? And it's like, oh, he cleans cannons. I was like, oh my gosh. So I picture myself sitting on a cannon cleaning it for 3 years, because that was my enlistment. Then I went back home and I forgot what it was. And my mom's like, well, what are you going to go do in the Army? I was like, I'm going to be a firefighter. Something like that. Something to deal with fire, And that's really how, and I left. Left one day notice, told her I'm leaving, and gone. And as I got there, we're in processing in Fort Sill, and the airborne recruiter comes with his little fancy maroon beret. I'm like, oh my gosh, that looks so cool. It's like, what does that guy do? He jumps out of planes. Oh, sign me up. I was scared of heights. I didn't even know. And so then we go to basic training, AIT, and then the Ranger recruiter comes in. He's wearing his black beret, his greens.
In the late 90s, it was still black.
Yes, black beret, greens, the real black beret. And I was like, man, that dude looks badass. I was like, what does he do? It's like, he's a Ranger. And I was like, oh, whatever. I was like, sign me up. And then listen to the briefing. It's like 30-mile ruck marches, no sleep. I was like, what did I sign up for? Man. So then airborne school, went to airborne school. And in airborne school, they separate you after you graduate. Basically put you in a little corner in the side and say, all the Rangers, Rippies, you're going over here. Everybody stand over here and watch the show. because it is a show. And so we're all standing there like, ooh, excited. We're about to be Rangers, you know.
What's RIP?
RIP, Ranger Indoctrination Program. So that's what it was when I went through in 1999. And it, you know, RIP, it just sounds scary in itself, you know. So they show up in a bread truck, and we're all over there like all happy, and they start to go to town. And and you could curse back then, so it's like, get the F in the truck, get it. And one guy's like jumping in the truck, and he's like, get off my truck, you know. It's like, you think you got a ride? And then boom, they just slammed the truck, and this was the run. Yeah, the run behind the bread truck. I believe it was to mimic the Mogadishu Mile. You know, if they did it before that, I wouldn't know, but that's what everybody was saying. So when we get to the RIP compound, it's close your eyes, bow your heads. If you don't want to be here, step out. Nobody will even know that you did, because that's it. And I want to say probably it was maybe like 40 to 50 of us, I would say. I'm not, you know, all I know is when I lift my head up, the person to my left and right was gone. And it was like, holy crap, the whole half of the class was gone, just based off of that simple intimidation. And that was it. And went through RIP, you know. Long and behold, not a lot of people know, because I'm very cocky and I went through RIP 3 times.
Confident.
I went through RIP 3 times. First time, I failed a ruck march out to Coal Range. So, because I was a 13 Fox, you know, an MOS of that stature, they said, okay, you can train and do it again. So bam, I trained in Fort Benning. Basically, I walked the sidewalks. So you know how the sidewalks are separated with the lines? So that's how I improved my ruck marching. I would stretch out. So went through RIP a second time, smoked it. Got smoked, but smoked it. It was a good time. On the road march back in, they were just paving the roads in Fort Benning. They're repaving them. So I go around a guy, and the road was uneven. And when I go around the guy, I fall off, twist my ankle. And now I'm falling behind. They're like, Ranger, get on the truck. I'm like, nope, not doing this again. Get on the truck, Ranger. Nope. Get on the truck, Ranger. You know, we know this is your second time, and we know you'll do it again if you want to. I was like, crap. So, because I couldn't keep up. My ankle was done.
High ankle sprain?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Those can be worse than actual fractures.
Yeah, it hurt. And so got on the truck, then boom, did it a third time. I wouldn't say I had a blast, but by that time the physical, it was just a smoke session. And when you're physically in shape, I'm talking about, we had Scuba Steve, who did 150 flutter kicks, 3 counts straight. And by the time I got to my third time there, I was doing 120 straight with him, 3. And so it was a good shape in my life, and I made it. And it was all worth it once I got to 1st Ranger Battalion.
Where were you going between the classes?
Yeah.
You said that you stayed at Fort Benning, but I mean, was there a holdover unit?
It was a holdover.
Yep. And how long were you there for before the next class started?
So it was probably like a week or 2 in between. So I graduated airborne school in January, so went straight to RIP February. I didn't get to 1st Ranger Battalion, I believe, until March, April. So, or maybe, no, May. So yeah, so it was 3 weeks. So 1, I didn't make it that first week. And then the second one, the full 3 weeks. And then the third one, the other 3 weeks. So it was only like a week in between. Only time they break is for, Best Ranger. Yep. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and then I ended up in 1st Ranger Battalion, spent about 4 years there. You know, best place to be a forward observer. So it was great times.
So you're a young Ranger in Ranger Battalion. Excuse me. 9/11 happens.
9/11.
While you were in Ranger Bat. So tell us about pre-9/11, during, and then post-9/11.
Yep. So pre-9/11, so I actually graduated Ranger School in August 10th, 2001. So a month before September 11 happened. Graduated, came home, smoked the crap out of my guys, and it's just a rite of passage at that point.
So this is almost the end of your enlistment.
I actually re-enlisted.
Okay, that's what I was getting towards. Okay.
I re-enlisted May 3rd, 2001, which was my birthday. So specifically re-enlisted for Ranger School, summertime. specifically.
Like intentionally to
Intentionally.
go.
Because I didn't go.
You didn't want to be a winter ranger? So.
Hey, no. And then it was like, so you got to re-enlist, and you got to re-enlist for Ranger School. I think I got like a $13,000 bonus, but they were like, you get a school of your choice, and it was like, oh, obviously Ranger School, but I want to go as soon as I re-enlist summertime. I'm not trying to be a winter ranger. So I re-enlisted May 3rd, 2001, and the next week I was off to Ranger School.
Oh, wow.
Pre-Ranger, and then right to Ranger School, went through. Real quick about pre-Ranger, almost failed pre-Ranger. So I'm a 13 Fox, and you get all these G2s about it, and they say, hey, as a 13 Fox, you'll never get put in a leadership position. So I took that to heart, and I didn't pay attention. So all I knew was FO and the radio. I was like, that's all they're going to do. That's all they got me. So about a week or two of planning, boom. As soon as we get out, all right, changeover. Murillo, your PL. I'm like, what? Oh, my gosh. So I get in the circle. I say, hey, just want y'all to know I ain't pay attention to nothing, and I don't know what's going on. It's like, let's go, let's move, and blew us out. So now we're on movement, actions in the ORP, actions on the objective. And normally you're only supposed to do one. And they're just blowing. And so I'm doing all three of these until I get to actions on the objective. And I have a support by fire on my left, a support by fire on my right, and my assault element running through. And the PL, the instructor's like, who the F is the PL? And I was like, that's me. He was like, you were effing fired. I was like, thank God. I was like, oh my God, when will this be over?
When will it be over?
Yes, and I had one more opportunity, and that was just ORP activities when the guys were out. I passed that, thank goodness. And then ever since then, it was like, all right, go to Ranger School, pay attention. Pay attention to everything. Pay attention to everything. And, mountain phase suck. That's one thing I said, hey, let me tell you, I ain't doing this one again. I'm a 13 Fox. I will go back to Ranger Battalion. They can keep me. I can get promoted. I don't know. It sucks so bad. And I was about 155 pounds, and I had never smelt ammonia. I was like, what is that smell? And that's your muscles burning, Ranger. I was like, oh my God. And made it to Florida, and the last patrol, they said, hey, you guys are all goes. Your job is to make this lieutenant a go. And we did. He's a good friend of mine now. And I graduated honor grad, NCO honor grad.
Nice.
I went to Ranger School as a PFC. Of course, we get promoted when we get back, but graduated NCO honor grad, first 13 Fox to graduate honor grad. And everybody's like, oh, wow, you're really good at that. I was like, well, let me backtrack this story to why I paid so much attention. It was almost over for me. But yeah, so get back. We go do our thing out to fixed wing. September 11 happened. Me and my buddy Corey Lindsay were sitting in our room listening to Shakira like we do every morning.
Yes, listen.
Yes, listen. Watch and listen. And boom, the news hit. And we're just putting on our boots, staring at it. We're like, we're going to war.
Yeah, I don't know what this means, but it involves us.
Yep, they locked down the entire battalion, everything, and that's September 11th. And then I think, our first company deployed in October. So they deployed in October, and then we had Roberts Ridge happen, so Operation Anaconda, and lost a couple guys on that I knew because I was in Alpha Company first, then went to Charlie Company. So that was a big hit for the battalion there. First people I ever knew that I knew, and we lost in combat. So many to happen afterwards, sadly, but next year go along, and everybody's ramping up. I get in trouble with me and my lieutenant go down for St. Patty's Day, my FSO, young guy. So we're out there partying, and we both get in trouble.
Go down where?
To Savannah, St. Patty's Day.
So we know that, but what happens in Savannah on St. Patty's Day?
Besides Boston, that was the second largest St. Patty's Day celebration, and it is insane. It is. I mean, I went to it last year, and it's not the same. Kind of like just everything dies out. But back in 2001, 2002, oh my gosh, it's crazy.
The river runs green.
Yes, it does. Oh, it's a mom's podcast, so let's keep it that way.
Was that the only trip that you took down to Savannah for St. Patty's?
No. I mean, I lived there. I was there. I was down. There was like 2 years I didn't know what downtown looked like during the day. I feel like we were down there every night just partying, and it's like, so, until we had to do PT one morning, and we went down to the river, and I was like, this is what this place looks like during the day. Oh my gosh, it looks
it's
really
actually
beautiful.
really nice. Yeah.
Really nice. Oh my gosh, so I got in trouble. Left. He left. I only spent a year in Korea, and I had a Ranger tab already. So boom, got to Korea. I went to a field artillery unit. There was another guy. He was an E7 there. He had a Ranger tab.
Were you at Camp Hovey?
Yes.
Yeah.
What was it? Second? Where is it? Second and 17?
I can't remember now, but it's
Yeah.
up. It's the counterfire unit mission up in Area 1. Yeah.
Yep, it's right there. And
Dongchang.
and he had a Ranger tab, and and he was just like, oh no, you're going up to 1st of the 506. I was like, what is that? It's like infantry battalion. I was like, oh, okay, like Ranger battalion. He's like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
like,
sure, just like that.
just like that. You'd be that Ranger up there. I was like, all right, how far is that place? Half an hour. Oh, lies. Lies. It's like 2 hours. And so I go up there. There's nothing up there because it's across the bridge. And once you're across the bridge, you got to be across the bridge by 11 o'clock every night.
Yep.
There's a curfew, and that's it. There's no women up there. There's like 2 truck drivers, and we all know what truck drivers look like. So, yeah. So what I did, I focused on teaching and just working out because I had in my head I wanted to go back to Ranger Battalion, and made some phone calls here and there, and I was getting my way to go back to 2nd, and I knew more as a E3, E4 Ranger Battalion FS or fire sport guy than their E7 knew. And their, E6s, E5, I was on point. And so what I did was pass my knowledge, teach classes, teaching, there's so many, our levels was just higher in Ranger Battalion because of our expectations. So I did that, and basically, there was no room for real error of going out, getting in trouble. Mm-hmm. People say, like when you go to Korea, you will come a rank less or something.
It's the quickest way to make E5 is to arrive as an E6.
Exactly. And I was like, well, it was opposite for me. I got promoted real fast. I was like, I think I got there as an E2 because I got demoted. So E2, E3, E4, and boom, went to selection. So I finally got my E4 in December of 2002. And they were like, in December, they were like, oh, you're going to get your E4, you go to selection. I was like, oh, crap, I need to train. And I was like, oh, when do you leave? I was like, January 8th. And I was like, oh, man.
So how did you get interested in Special Forces?
Okay. So this is what it is at. In Korea, people were going home, they would have to pay for their plane ticket home, go on leave. If you go to selection, you can quit after 7 days, and then they were taking the 14 days, and then plus their 14 days of leave, and they got the free plane ticket home because they went to selection. So I was like, man, that's a great idea. I was like,
kind of make the system work for
gaming
you.
The system.
Yeah, make the system work. Because in my mind, I thought I was going back to 2nd Ranger Battalion, and I was like, oh, that sounds great. And then my XO, well, he was a company commander, but he was my XO Ranger Battalion. He was there. And I was like, hey, I'm going to selection. He's like, oh, you're not going to make it. I was like, what? I got this. All right. Say he didn't make it. But that was the whole plan, was to go there, say, hey, I want to do this after 7 days. Take leave. So I get there, and I'm sitting in the briefing, and I'm just like, man, this is some cool stuff. You know what? I'll hang out until,
just for a little while.
They let me go. Yeah. So I'm just like, oh, And I've had my moments in selection, and I went, and and it was good. It was great. There's some moments where I wanted to quit, and I was like, screw this. I was like, I'm out. And I would get on the road, and I would be on the road, and I'm looking, and if you get on the road, you're a roadkill. And I'm just like, because one time I was running to a point, and there was a fallen tree. I hit the tree, and I went rolling down, rucksack head. And I was like, screw this, I'm out. I don't want to be here anyway. And I get on the road, and I'm out there on the road, and I'm contemplating life, and I'm just like, looking around, I'm like, well, guess nobody's coming. Might as well go back in. So I went back in.
So you'd already been through a lot of physically demanding training and stuff. So what was it about selection that, frustrated you so much or got you to the point of almost quitting?
It was just because I had the intention of not being there.
Yeah.
So it was something that I never put
heart
in my
wasn't in it.
Yeah, my heart wasn't in it. I mean, so it was just like, oh, when I hit that tree and I went rolling down, I was like, oh, screw this, I'm out. I don't want to be here anyway. But then I was like, oh, well, nobody's coming for me. I'm going to go back in. And that was it. So it wasn't, I was in shape. It wasn't physically demanding. I mean, getting smoked sucks no matter what, but as far as the land navigation and stuff like that, I made my 11 out of 12 on the third day, so I was allowed to go back in. So normally it's 16 what?
It's a star course.
Yeah, star course. Yeah. So if you make 11 out of 12 on the third day, that you go in and you get an extra day of rest. Meanwhile, the other people stay out there and get their points.
It's a long day.
It's a long day. It was good because once I got in there, put my feet up, the range was dropped. And all I could think of, because I had two friends that were there, and I was like, oh man, it sucks to be them.
Yeah.
So I came in the first day, and my buddy Leslie Johnson, tall guy, he came from Korea with me. He was like, I came in and I only had 3 points. And he comes in and he was like, well, I got 4 points, little man. And I was like, oh. He was like, looks like you ain't going home. I was like, oh, all right. So then next day I got 4, and he comes back. I said, how many you get? He's like, I got 2. I was like, looks like you ain't. And then the third day I get my 11 out of 12. And I was like, I looked at him, I was like, and I get on the truck. I was like, hey, Leslie, have a great time. And so that was good. And we did the trek, 12-man team. It was a team thing. It was a team effort. You had 2 guys that their rucksack would always blow out. So, I mean, I got, 10 out of 12 blue cards, 2 pink cards because of those guys, because I was always yelling. So I did great there, and I was like, well, this sounds good. Continue on. Then continue on, went through the Q course, and came back in 2003, started Q course in June, finished in 2004, December, 18 Echo, 3 months. I think my only layover was probably like a week or 2 for SEER school, and that was it. And then I was done in December, boom, in group by January 05, deployed by August 05.
Which group?
Third group. Yep,
so
the best group.
I have a couple questions. So you were a Spanish speaker, not necessarily a native Spanish speaker. Is that accurate?
I didn't know Spanish.
I thought you knew some. Okay, so I'm asking because you ended up in the third group, which is not exclusively, but predominantly a French-speaking because of so many Francophone countries in Africa.
Yep.
Third group is Africa. So was French your language that did you choose it?
No, they
did
chose it
choose
for you.
Okay.
Yeah, they chose that for you.
Okay.
They chose, you have your wish list for the MOS.
Yeah.
So I put, 18 Echo because I figure I could relate to it because of the commo.
So that's communications, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just like, no, I couldn't. Antenna theory, no, blew my mind. But that was chosen, and French was chosen. Thank goodness. 3 months or 4 months.
That's a short language.
Short language, and it's relative to Spanish.
Yes.
Yeah, they're all Latin based.
So even though I didn't know Spanish, I grew up around Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, and kind of comprehend. So it made it easy for me. So yes.
Okay, perfect. So you got French, you do Q course, and you show up to third group.
Yep. In 2005, we deploy.
How long was it from the time that you showed up to your first deployment there?
January 2005 and August. We deployed, I believe, July-August time frame.
So you had to train up then.
Yeah.
Well, no. So here it is. I did not go to ODA. So as an 18 Echo or Bravo, if you fall into somehow, it's like you end up somewhere in the support realm. And it's like as an 18 Echo, you're like, everybody needs an 18 Echo. So I'm standing at staff duty with another 18 Echo, and they're like, one of y'all have to go to the SIGDET. I was like, what? And I was like, you 2nd Battalion, you SIGDET. And I'm like, what the? I was like, what? Why am me? I was like, holy crap. So I ended up in the SIGDET.
So
which
signals
is
with signals attachment, GSC, and basically you run the SIGDET, the siege assault of talk, basically not talk, but the whole commo sections. You handle all that stuff. And I was so pissed, and I was just like, oh my gosh. So now here I am with a bunch of support kids. You know, my first female soldier, I was only an E5. So like, I was only an E5. I was an E4 when I went through selection, got promoted, became an E5. And then when I got there, I was an E5. And I was like, oh crap, you know. So I had soldiers, fell into that support realm. Now I'm tabbed out, but I'm rolling with support guys. So it's like, what the hell? Anyways, deployed with them. One of the best things was actually working with support guys, getting to know them. Some of them my best friends, some of them were in my wedding. And it was a great experience to work with them and get to know them, which really paid off when I went to a team. And, you know, when I came back, you know, anything I wanted, it was just like, oh, don't worry about it. Bam, bam. So it's a good place to learn, you know, but everybody wants to go to ODA first and live that life. But
team life.
Yep, it was worth it, you know. So deployed, Operation Red Wings happened. I was the Siege Assault Camo guy going with the SEAL team to JBAD to be basically the in-between the relay stuff. And I mean, like, I didn't really know much about camo, but what the school taught me, and by the time we got done with SEER school, it's like, holy crap. So I had another guy who just came back from Iraq with B-23. He was just a regular camo guy. And I was like, well, I need to bring somebody with me. And it was like, well, pick who you want to bring. And I was like, I'm going to bring Juan because he knows his stuff. So me and him went. We sat in a briefing with the actual SEALs, listened to it, you know, then boom, ramped up. We took off from Bagram, dropped the guys off, inserted them, and then went to JBAD. I stayed up most of the night. Juan went to sleep, and that's when we started losing communications and stuff like that. And finally, I went to sleep, and that's when Commander Stevenson comes in, and it's like 110 degrees in the tent, and he's like, hey, the guy's been compromised. And as the story goes, you know, there's so much in behind the scenes stories that we were actually there for 3 days and got to see and experience thing. But one of the most, not traumatic, but it was one of the most things I remember is when that first helicopter went down and how silent that jock got. And it was just like, everybody was just in shock because those guys that were on the helicopter was just in here screaming and yelling to leave, and then they leave, and then that happens. Yeah. So that was one of those first experiences. I always tell people one of my first missions and experience in SF was being there for that, not being a part of it, not being like a part of rescue team, but being a part of it to listen and experience it. Later on, I'd go to ODA 363, which was sister to ODA 362, which were the guys who actually went in when they got Marcus and took him out. So got to meet those guys, and I was like, oh crap, I was on the ground there.
So I wasn't far away. I was in Task Force and Devil there in RC East.
Okay. So you guys were probably spun up too.
We were helping provide some of the furthermost outer security for some of that. It was basically, don't let anybody else back in. There's already bad guys in here. Don't let anybody else in. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the true guys, the guys that we saw, that I saw busting butt, was Ranger Battalion guys. Those guys were on the side of hills. They were going through it every day, giving each other IVs, and you know, those were the guys that were actually doing the suck. You know, ODA 362 was out there too, but those guys in a majority force, they were there, and it was one of those things. You know, I'm just like, wow. You know, it's an experience. It's a story to tell. You know, so yeah, but. Then eventually I go back to Bagram, and a team sergeant sees me in the gym, and he's like, oh, what do you do? And I was like, oh, I work out. He's like, no, dummy, what do you do? I was like, oh.
He might be right.
Yeah, I was like, I'm a commo guy. And he was like, are you an 18 guy? I was like, yeah, I'm an 18 Echo. And he's like, you work in the SIG day? I was like, roger that, sergeant. He's like, you want to come to a team? I was like, yeah, of course I do. He's like, who's in charge of you? And I told him who's in charge of me. And next morning I wake up to them two just coming in my room, and it was just like, hey, you're going to the ODA.
Pack your bags.
I was like, oh, well, yeah, let's go, you know. And ODA 325 was my first ODA, stacked. Ranger tabs, scuba bubbles, Ranger battalion guy. They've been deployed for probably like the last 3 years, or 2 years. And, just some seasoned guy. And, thank goodness I came from Ranger Battalion and had a Ranger tab. Because if you had that, they were on your ass. They didn't like the other commo guy because, one, he barely could do pull-ups, but he didn't have a Ranger tab. And they was just like, he was smart, though. So. But he was going back for a promotion board or something. So I was just like, and still, I'm trying to learn my job. And I'm just like, well, I need to learn this ANCD. And how to get it into this Kick 13, and that's all I need you to teach me right now. I'll learn everything else because I couldn't figure out the damn NCD. Once he showed me that, I was like, cool, I'm good to go. Transfer this, Kick 13 all day, every day, And that was it. I spent the rest of my time deployed with them, came back, and of course the first sergeant didn't like me. That was with the GSC, and he was just like, well, I went back with the team. And it was a scuba team. And I went from 160 to 183 on that deployment. Barely ran, tried to run. And they were like, hey, Rick, you got to go to scuba school. I was like, oh, yeah, of course. I tried to run.
How hard could it be?
How hard could that be? And I tried to run when I came back. And it was like, I ran my 2 miles in like 19 minutes. And I was like, oh, my God. And I'm used to running 12:30s and all that when I was in Ranger Battalion.
Yeah.
And so I finally got it down to about 14, and then they're like, bam, go to pre-scuba with group. Boy, that sucked. I was number 13, and number 13 was always at the bottom of the pool. Number 13, get from the bottom of the pool. I was, so I did not make the cut. So there was like, so I went back to the SIGDET. Had to go spend another year in the SIGDET, finish out my time. And that was 06, 07 deployment. And it was probably the most fun deployment, like so much fun. So many things happened. I went to Pakistan for about a week, got sick, teach a MDMP, Mission Decision Making, Military Processing class. MDM, what is it?
Military Decision Making Process.
Yes. So taught that and got sick, played chess. They didn't think I was a chess player, so the guy came to my room like our last day and was just like, you will play chess with me. And I was like, I don't want to play chess with you. I am sick. And he stunk. He smelled. Like how they smell. I'm just like sitting across from him, trying not to throw up. I'm sweating. And I'm just like, so I do a couple bullcrap moves and I'm like, you win. He's like, no, you did not play for your potential. And I was like, all right, here we go. So I played. I beat him. I was like, all right, you got to leave my room now. I was like, I'm done. My buddy looks at him and he looks at me, he goes, why you didn't let him win? I was like, I let him win the first one. He's like, but you're supposed to let him win the second one too. I was like, why? He wanted it, so I gave it to him. He's like, oh, here we go, international incident. We already got in trouble because you were wearing sleeveless shirts. And I was like, oh God, here we go. So I finished out that deployment with those guys. I come back and, my first sergeant was like, you need to go find yourself a job. And I was like, okay. So I called around, looked around, I was like, hey. And 2nd Battalion, 3rd Group was where my buddy was like, hey, come here. I'm going to teach a class on SOTAC, Special Operations Tactical Air Controller, which I went to the school already, and I had the background as an FO. So I get there to the company. He's like, hey, this is the effing new guy. He's trying to get a job here. I'm Julian. I'm going to be teaching SOTAC. Look at the time. I got to go. I got a doctor's appointment. New guy, take over. I said, what? Didn't even see any of the slides or anything. Didn't give me anything. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, here we go. So I get up there and I blow it away. Of course, I'm before some of the slides, so I would come to the side like, as I previously stated in this slide.
That's right.
This is what it is, and blah, blah. So I guess that was my interview in a sense. And 2 teams were like, we want him. We're getting ready to go downrange. We want him. One team was a 363. They were the hottest team in the company. Then you had 364, which was the other hot team. And they were a Halo team. And, of course, everybody wants to go guys, Halo. Yes, Halo. And I was like, I want to go Halo. But the other guy trumped the other team sergeant, and he was just like, we will get him. And then, boom. I get to the team room, and they're separated into 3 cells, how they want it. The team room's up here, down here, and the team sergeant goes around and he said, this cell leader will ask you questions. So the first cell leader was the guy that was standing next to me when we both got chosen for team or SIGDET.
Oh.
Yes, so that dude was standing right next to me, is now on this ODA, and he looks at me and he goes, well, what can you bring to the team? I was like, first of all, let me tell you something. I would have been in your position right now if you were standing on the right of me. I was like, do you know who I am? And he was like, oh, I remember you. I was like, yes. I was like, let me tell you what I bring to this team. I bring to this team Ranger Skills, Ranger Battalion, SOTAC, Jump Master. What else? I probably bring more than you right now. So you got lucky, and that's why you're up there. And the team sergeant was like, I guess he knows you. Okay.
Oh, you've met.
Yeah. And then my other buddy, he's a medic. I forgot what question he asked, but he was just laughing. He's like, oh, it's good to go. I was so mad when I saw him and had the audacity to ask me that question. I said, no. And they really had 3 echoes on the team. And one echo was actually, he had left right when I got there, but me and him went through the Q course together and the whole commo stuff. But yeah, so did that deployment. That was 07, 08.
And that was to where?
That was to, we went out of Kandahar. And then we went to the Helmand province. So, yeah. And did that rotation out there. So, any questions in between before we roll into that?
How many was that altogether?
This was my third.
Okay.
So 05, 06, 06, 07. Now this is 07, 08. So, yeah. So 07, 08. Fun times with the ODA. First experience with PTSD. You know, our team sergeant came from CAG. Delta, and over there he got shot in the throat, and I guess he took some downtime, and he came to group, and that's why the team was so hot, because it was all CQB, it was all door kicking. He mirrored it as that. That's why we had cells. I was like, I didn't even know what cells were. And I'm just like, okay, it all made sense. But we were on her. I needed that discipline in my life. He was not about no fun. He was Mr. No Fun. And that was it. Let's go. Train. I was like, this is so cool.
That's what you needed at that point.
Yeah, it was great to be on a team where people were like, oh, that team's hot. So we had a sister. We were already out at File Price. We had a sister team coming out, and they got ambushed. It was our 6-5 team, our scuba team. They got ambushed. You're talking about Humvees burnt to the ground, 50 cal burnt, and they were listening to it on the radio, and we're right there. Other people are there, and they're just not. They're not sending us out. They're not sending us out. The teams aren't. It's going, and eventually something happened. I won't say snap, but something happened, and just a different person. And it was just like, eventually after 2-3 days, they made a decision that he was a danger or something. It was risk to have him here, so they sent him. They sent him back. So. They sent them back. Had a new team sergeant come in, which was night and day. Night and day. This one was strict all the way here. This one was like, let's have a great time and kill some bad guys. But let's have a good time doing it. I was like, okay, right. So he was actually cool. I was like, oh my God, I see myself as that team sergeant right there. Went out a couple missions, did a lot of fun stuff, invaded Musa Kalea for probably like the 8th time, with a 220 vehicle convoy.
Well, the first 7 times, I didn't think you were serious.
Yeah, well, not us. I mean, it just happened before, and it was just like, and I was like, oh wow, we're going to invade this place. I was like, they already did it like 6 times. I was like, what the hell, And then we're building up, and it's a 220 vehicle convoy coming through the desert that you act like you can't see. And I'm just like, okay. 82nd actually went in and established our outer corridor, and they actually lost, I believe, 2 or 3 guys. One of my good friends was out there. He was the first sergeant out there. And so we went in, not one shot fired. So if I ever hear like an SF guy talk about Musa Kalea and how dangerous or bad, I'm like, no, not one shot fired because of us, thanks to the 82nd. So give them their props where props are due. And then we, had to stay out there, build a fire base. Prince Harry was out there with us. He came out there. First experience with him, we already built this. The Brits out there, they say, oh, Prince Harry's out here. He's the air guy or whatever. And me and my buddy Harold.
He's the spare.
Is he an heir or a spare?
He's the spare.
He
was the spare. Now he's like doing whatever.
Yeah, he was actually the air guy. So all
he means air like AIR.
AIR. So like he controlled the ear. And so we're out at the we're out by the food thing, and so Prince Harry and two of his cronies walk up. I don't even know who he is. So I'm wearing my hat. Now I would always have a hat on, and they're all brand new hats that get shipped to us. So I keep the tag on my hats just because I'm just like, oh, it's a funny thing, how people do it. It was a style back then.
Yep.
So I just keep it on. I had like a golf hat or something. And Prince Harry and his two cronies walk up. Me and Harold just there. And he's like, he looks at me, he goes, hey, you have your tag on your hat. And he smacks my tag on my hat. I was like, listen, if you smack my hat again, I'm going to punch you in the face. And my buddy's like, and he's like, whoa, calm down. I was like, I don't give a f-. Sorry. and he's like, well, we're looking for your warrant officer, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, he's over there. And so they leave and walk away. And my buddy goes, hey, bro, you know who that was? I said, I don't go, who that is? He's like, that was Prince Harry. I was like, well, you tell him that I said don't ever touch my hat again. And we're going to get down like that. And
there's a reason why we don't have royalty here.
So I guess he goes into the talk and he meets my chief and talks to him. He goes, I just ran into two of your ruffians out there. I touched one of their hats and he tried to beat me up. And he's like, oh, that's Rick. Don't touch Rick's hat. 2 weeks later, I go, or maybe a week later, I'm trying to get a helicopter in so I can fly out and go get money as the money guy. And I go into where they're at. It's like, you got to go talk to Prince Harry. He's the one that controls the air. I was like, oh, crap. I was like, all right. So I go over there. I was like, hey, I'm here to see your air guy. He's like, okay. And then he walks up. He's like, whoa, don't hit me. I was like, I'm not going to hit you. I was like, unless you don't get me my hair right now, the helicopter I need. And so that's a funny story. And then
that's good.
2 weeks later, I get shot. And they said, my friends joke around and said, that's what you get for messing with Prince Harry.
He set the whole thing up.
He set the whole thing up. And yeah, so that's that little part of that story.
Okay, well, let's talk about your Purple Heart. So where were you? What happened?
So we're in the Helmand province. Can't remember the name exact. My guy knows the name. And so January 26, 2008. Yep. So we went out on a 3-day mission. We're actually in a firefight the night before or the day before, and then we took the night to bed down. My mom's birthday is January 25th, so I took a moment to call my mom, wished her happy birthday.
As you should.
Yeah. So and then the next day we roll out. We get to, I think it was Regate. Regate was where we were at. And we get to the village. We were advised to search the village, Taliban activities, weapons, all that stuff. So you get to the village, you get to the front of the village, you meet the elders, let the elders know what's going on. Hey, let them know that we are, and this is my, team leader talking, platoon or team sergeant. Hey, let them know that we need to come in here. We got to search the village, and suspected Taliban activities. We don't want to interrupt what they have going on. Basically, like a whole paragraph. And then the interpreter interprets, and then boom, the guy responds back, and he responds back with like a whole paragraph. And what does the interpreter do? He's like, what did he say? He said, okay.
He said it's going to be fine.
He said it's going to be fine. It's okay. I was like, he did not just say all that with just that. It's okay. They'll be back. So they go back in and say, give us time. Let us get our women and children situated. Probably about an hour goes by, maybe less. You start to see the women and children leaving. And they're leaving. And we all know that's a sign of something's going to happen. And I always, talk about the guys, the ODA, the SADA guys that were there. I don't think we had CA there with us. And for them to look and just see and know that that's about to happen because of that big indicator right there, and not one person would question about going in there with each other or anything, that speaks volumes amongst those guys and myself and my ODA guys, because it could have easily made the say like, oh, we're not going in there. We know what they're about to do. So, but no, everybody went in, made sure everybody had each other's back. As soon as we get in, stuff pops off. We have the assault force down there with the ANA that's clearing the buildings. We're taking fire, so they shoot a couple RPGs. One at GMV up here to my left, one on the right. We're over here, and we're providing support by fire. Some cast. We had a JTAC with us, so we do a couple cast runs. I was marking with the 60 millimeter mortar, the WP, just for marking.
If anybody's listening,
just for marking. And that's it. So boom, mark for that. Next thing you know, I go lays over, and boom, spot a guy in the tree line with a machine gun, and he just sprays us. PKM sprays us. There was 4 of us standing next to each other, and we all hit the deck. And I hit the deck, and I'm just like, bam, my arm just locks up. So took a shot here, split here, came in here, went out the back.
Get a ricochet?
It just all this went straight through.
Got it.
One to the chest, and then 3 in the stomach, which, I didn't know about those. And then my arm just locked up. And, the story goes, it's like locked up, and I'm like, oh no. I'm like, pimp down. And my buddy hears it on the radio, because he used to call me a pimp. And he's like, and he just hears it. He goes, pimp down. And then the captain gets on the radio, and he says, hey, Rick, quit f***ing around. Get off the radio. I was like, nope. Pretty sure I've been shot. And he's like, oh no. My buddy comes over. He starts ripping my stuff. I was like, hey, Justin, don't rip my stuff off. And then the captain's trying to jump on the 50 cal. And I'm like, don't let him jump on that 50 cal. I was like, you get up there. Leave me alone. And then Harold come running over. And Harold is my medic. And Harold is a black guy. And we got to name our missions. And the name of this mission was Harold. So as Harold runs over and leans over on me, and he's like, Rick, you okay? I go, what the F, Harold? He goes, what? I was going, they should have shot your black ass because this was named after you. He's like, really? That's what you have to say to me?
At this time?
At this time? And I'm like, I said, am I going to be okay? He's like, I don't know, man. Let me check. He's like, oh. I said, what? He's like, how do you feel? I was like, I'm good. They got me in my paintball arm, but I'm good. All right. And he's like, you're going to be okay. I was like, okay. So he pulls me aside, bandaged me up, and, just starts hitting the fan. Just boom, boom, just shooting nonstop.
Because the shooting doesn't stop.
Yeah, it doesn't stop. And it's like, there's a couple of videos that I posted online of shooting, and them you don't really see them shooting back, but it's a constant thing. Cass is coming through, and they're trying to get me out of there, because, Harold gets on the radio. He goes, hey, we need to get out of here now. And I go, hey, man, I thought you said I was going to make it. He's like, oh, yeah, you're fine. And I was like, no. And then just what goes on after. We go to 2 different drop zones, and they were following us at one point. Finally, we make it to the 3rd one. Get there, Afghanis on outer perimeter. We're in their perimeter.
Somewhat secure.
Huh?
Somewhat
secure. Well, yeah. So you're like, pulling security, and then as soon as the helicopter come in, they all turn in and they're all eating MREs and looking, watching this helicopter comes in.
That's your security right there.
Yeah. And then I'm running onto the helicopter with Harold, and that video is out there too. And yeah. And then next thing it's the best 3 months of my life.
So you're wearing a flak vest?
Yes.
Okay, yep. So your gut shots.
Yeah, so I had a magazine here.
Yeah.
And that caught one around, and then...
Is that the one, the picture you have?
Yeah, the picture I have, yep. And then the 3 in the stomach, which I didn't know about till I got back to country. I spent 3 months at home, got healed up. I got home February 3rd, so maybe like a month and a half, healed up, and was ready to go. Doctor signed off on everything, and it was right a week before St. Patrick's Day.
You weren't going to miss it and you weren't going to get in trouble this time, right? Or maybe you were.
I mean, I was on leave.
Before we get to that, a couple of questions going back to your Purple Heart incident. When you guys noticed those indicators before you went into the village with the women and children getting out of the way, and the long conversations with a very short translation, those indicators like that, did you guys have a conversation amongst yourselves about this is
an SOP?
This is what's going on, or did you, like Roger said, did you have a standard operating procedure for things like that?
No, we kind of. It's one of those things where he looked at and was just like, "Oh, it's on." It's about to be on.
Just like a look between teammates where you just kind of like,
it's like,
okay.
oh yeah,
This is it.
Okay.
It's going to be on. Once we go in there, we know what's about to happen. So, of course, they formulated the plan of the 2 at the top, the assault force at the bottom. And that was really the plan right there. And I was just like, oh, okay. It's unsaid things, but visualize and just the way you look at each other and like, let's go.
Things that you can't replicate if you're not a very close team that's trained together and spent that much time together. You just can't replicate that elsewhere than in special operations.
Mm-hmm. Now, you said that you couldn't get picked up at the first 2 sites.
Mm-hmm.
Why was that? Because this is 07, 08?
Yes.
Okay, so at this point, if I remember correctly, the Taliban and Al-Qaeda had started to figure out like what areas are suitable for medevacs, and they had started booby trapping them.
Oh well, no, they were following us, so it wasn't.
So it was just you just didn't have enough distance.
Yes, we didn't have enough distance, and we had to break contact. CAS was called, so got to one side. It's like, oh no, they're still right there moving. So finally got to an open field. So it was none of those, But that area was hot, but there's none of those, and
it just took you that long to get to a safe distance.
And I didn't. It was a Chinook that came in. And I don't remember seeing an escort helicopter. They had to be one with it because that was the SOP, And we're off to the side, and the helicopter lands, and you see all these British guys run out, like hut, 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 and then they set up a little half moon perimeter at the end of the helicopter, and we're all looking. I'm high on this lollipop. I'm like, this is the best lollipop I've ever had, and I'm just like, oh, let's go. I was like, let's go, And then we get in helicopter. And it's just like, load up. I'm like, Harold, you coming with me? He's like, nah, Rick, I gotta stay. I was like, oh man, this sucks. I was like, all right. And they get off and all them run back on, and it's just like, all right, I'm all alone now.
Were you the only casualty on that bird? Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, there's a lot more into that, but that requires Jameson and a bunch of other stuff.
Fair enough.
Yes.
We'll catch that one the next time.
Yes.
Okay, so you're starting to get healed up. You're back home in stateside, rather.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So healed up, got my clearance letter, told the lady, I want to wait another week. So I had a buddy flying from Texas, an Old Ranger Battalion guy. Picked him up. We went straight down to Savannah. Partied the whole weekend in Savannah. Had a great time. Didn't get in trouble. Went back up. And left. Left kind of, Some people didn't want me to leave. Some people were like, hey, you get to go. I was like, oh, cool, good to go. Made it back to country in 3 days. It was like so fast. So like from, group to DC or Baltimore to Germany to, what was right outside of Afghanistan? Manas. Yep.
Yeah, Manas.
Kyrgyzstan. Manas.
Yep. Manas, Bagram to Kandahar. There was a memorial that night, I believe, for an Air Force guy. But they had a ring flight going out that night to my fire base. And I was like, and then as I was popping in, everybody's like, what are you doing back? I was like, oh, yeah, we didn't know you were coming back.
Surprise.
Yeah, surprise, and I'm getting on the helicopter at Bastion. Well, I was already on the helicopter, and I'm getting off the helicopter. Meanwhile, my B team is coming on there with a couple pucks, and they're like, oh, what are you doing? My company sergeant major was like, what are you doing back? I was like, oh, came back. What do you mean what I'm doing back? He's like, oh, I wasn't tracking it. I was like, I don't think anybody was. It's okay.
So you said they came back with a couple of pucks.
Yeah, what's a puck?
Yeah, a puck, what was it?
Persons under control.
Under confinement?
I never really knew what it meant.
Yeah.
Just call it
We'll say detainey.
I don't want anybody thinking that they came back with some hockey pucks
from
the local Afghanistan rink,
Yeah. Listen, I don't really know much about things like that. I'm just like, I guess that's what it is.
Detainees,
because I don't think we call them pucks after a while. Like, it's a detainee, but whatever. But, yeah, and flew into my fire base at like 2:30, 3 a.m. Justin comes out. I get off the bird, and I look at him. He's like, oh, Rick, what are you doing back? I was like, why does everybody ask me that? Why wouldn't you come back? He's like, man, the generator just died. I was like, man, I'm about to get back on this bird. I was like, I ain't playing. And I come in, and everybody's like waking up because I'm back, and they're like, really? And I was like, oh. So I went to sleep at like 5, and at 7:30 we woke up, and my team sergeant was like, hey, we're going on a mission. And QLE, KLE, Key Leaders Engagement.
Yep.
Bam, I remember that one. And he was like, it's nothing big. But he's like, but if you want to stay back, you can stay back. I was like, you think I flew all the way here to stay back? I was like, let's go. Okay, let's go. And so by that next morning, I was out and about, you know, and that was it. Get right back. And what I learned from the previous team sergeant was, you know, you've got to get back in the fight. And I really believe that time off, even though he needed it, I mean, that was a more crucial injury than mine was, I would say. But, you know, to get back right into it, that was my mentality. One, I wanted to be back with my team. Two, I'm not waiting till the next deployment.
Purpose.
Yeah, not waiting.
At this point, were you married?
No, I was not.
So you were still single?
No, I was. Well, I got married in 2005, I think. Yeah, 2005. She got pregnant, so I got married. It was a little girl, so I didn't want her born out of wedlock. So September 2nd, we got married, and we had the baby September 7th. So we'll put that in perspective, you know. So by this third deployment, I was already going through marital problems because I wasn't home. I wasn't, you know, it was just gone.
So your team is your support group.
Yes.
So, I mean, coupling the you know, the family issues with being shot, and I mean, what are you going to do? Just, you know, lay there in a hospital bed or go through physical therapy without any sort of support system? So Yep. So
that's who I wanted to be with. I want to go back to be with my team, finish with my team, get back on a bicycle and roll it out. I went there with them. I want to come back home with them. You know. So that was my mindset, you know, and I felt like because I rushed at it, I physically healed, but I didn't mentally heal, you know, in a sense where it was just like, bam, that injury happened and just, who cares, you know, leave and come back, go back and drink, party. At one point, it was like living a rock star life of, you know, drinking and not showing up to work and, you know, showing up hungover. And it's like, who's going to tell the guy who got shot 3 or 5 times, you know, with one major injury, but, you know, what to do and how to act, you know. But once again, in SF, it's a dime a dozen. So many Purple Hearts, so many Bronze Stars with V, you know, so you really weren't that as much as, you know, different than anybody else. But I thought in my mind, I was like, oh, F that, you know.
It's easy to rationalize that behavior.
Yes, and, you know, everybody say, oh, you're a hero because you got shot. And, you know, and I was like, oh, yes, I am a hero, you know. And many years and goes by, and I think about 5 years ago when I realized getting shot doesn't make you a hero. It's what you do afterwards. And that's what makes you a hero. And that was said on Blue Bloods. So just don't know if y'all watch Blue Bloods.
If Tom Selleck said
Tom Selleck said it on Blue Bloods. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's the best thing I heard.
The second best mustache in Hollywood.
That's right.
Your mustache is, I'm afraid, not as magnificent as Tom Selleck.
The mustache is made for the beard.
That's right.
But yeah, that's when he said that just resonated with me. And I was like, wow. But it took so long for that. It took for me to hear that. And I just was like, wow, that is true. And at this point, I'd already been, you know, working through my transition of fixing. But if we go back to coming home, developing the alcohol, I won't say developing an alcohol problem, it was just increasing and you know, just continuous. We went and did one more deployment, a 3-month deployment to Bagram, you know, and there was drinking. Every deployment, there was drinking. There was drinking every deployment. There was access to alcohol. You know, one deployment, you know, the 06-07 deployment was probably more drinking than, you know, I drank at home. More partying out because we were on the big base, Bagram, in our own little compound. And there was more drinking and partying and everything you can think of, you know, besides being in the free country. But you were in our own world there at Siege of Sodef. And it was sad, but I was just like, oh, I can't wait to go home to quit, slow down on my drinking.
Yeah, which is backwards.
Then, and then you would drink before you deploy. You drink when you get back. You drink for any little thing. You drink when people die. So everything was all that. Went to SOTAC again. We're preparing for Pakistan. So we're getting ready to do like a year deployment in Pakistan. and went to SOTAC for a refresher. And let me tell you, my brain was fried. There was an instructor there that was there when I went through in '05, and I was second in the class. Some major beat me out, but I was second in the class as far as knowledge and everything when it came to SOTAC. And then when I went this second time, like, they were always pointing at me like, all right, Rick, well, what is this? I was like, I don't know what that is. Like, my mind was completely blank. Like, I had no more knowledge of that. I could get on the radio and execute, but when they're going through terminology and stuff, I was like, I don't remember any of that. I was like, you learned it in the class '05. I was like, oh, can't remember that crap. Everything now is like more muscle memory and just what it is. And I got a DUI in that school, and that's a high profile school because it's a USASOC school, and so that went up the chain. Boom.
Where is SOTAC?
It's in Yuma, Arizona.
So it's not in Nellis then?
No, it's in Yuma, Arizona. Okay. The hottest place on the planet, I think. The sun is like right where that light bulb is.
He's Mr. Death Valley over there, so
no, I swear, like, the sun is like right there when you're in Yuma. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. Yeah, the first SOTAC I went to, we went out drinking the first night. And then we went outside for a practical exercise the next day for 10 minutes. And at that point, I realized I am not drinking for the rest of the time I'm here until the weekend.
Yeah.
And did not, because that was just no joke.
It's
and I
torture.
did it.
Yeah.
It is. So then I went to SOTAC out there, got in trouble, came back. Boom. At this point, it was just like, okay, we're not trying to get rid of you. You're on the B team already. You're doing your time. Do it. So, just do my time. Did what I need to do. We had a PMT, pre-mission train up in AP Hill. The sergeant major couldn't be out there. The colonel couldn't be out there. So the B team sergeant, new guy, took over. Wasn't really keen on what was going on. So I kind of took over and ran it. And put people where they need to be put, executed things where it needed to happen. And when Sergeant Major came out there, he was really impressed with what I had going on. And his words was like, hey, you're recovering well from this. He was like, keep this up. You're going to end up back on the team.
You're an E7 at this point?
E7 at this point, yep. So yeah. So kudos, I go back home. We go back down Bragg. I had a girlfriend at the time. And boom, go out. Argument with her, get in the car, DUI again. And so it was a DUI within a 6-month period, 2 DUIs, and a chapter offense, getting kicked out. So appealed it, did all I could.
There's not much command can do for you.
But they did a board of your peers. So, of course, it was a check the block thing, because basically up top said, oh, that's it, he's done. So basically, you're just going through the process now. They already knew what they were going to do. They were set. Their mind was set. All my peers came and spoke on my behalf. And, my buddy Harold comes out and he says, hey, their mind are made up already. This is just a show for them. This is it. And then I had a best friend that I've known her since 97, 98, actually 99. And she served as well. And she let him have it. And she was the one that was just like, hey, you guys are kicking this guy out. You guys created this guy. You guys, I've been downrange with you guys. I know what you guys do. You guys come back and now here you guys are pretending like you care, and she let them have it basically, and but their minds were made up. Yeah. And it was already that. So it was, reduced to E1, other than honorable discharge, and SF tab revoked, and that was it. So that sunk in. And then it was just like, life was over. Life was over. Sick every morning, sick to my stomach, throwing up. And
broken marriage.
And that was already done and over with. And it was just, nothing. Girlfriend broke up with girlfriend. So now here I am out in the streets. Got kicked out the Army. No benefits, no nothing. So now I'm out on the streets with people I party with.
How long?
Yeah, how fast?
How fast was the discharge process? Well, okay. Further back than that, from your second DUI to completely out the door?
Probably about 6 months.
So fast.
Fast. It happened fast. That's where, because, I say you make your bed, you sleep in it. But basically, they didn't want that black eye. They didn't want that. Back then, that's how they solved the problems. Rather than take a look at, hey, what's the alcohol problem? What's his background? What has he done? What has he done? Where's he at? How many other incidents have he has? Talk to his team sergeant. You know, try to get more in depth in what these soldiers are going through before you just decide to kick them out. You know,
this was 2009.
This was 11.
Okay, 11.
This was 11. So, you know, boom, out. So just being out on the streets, hanging out with people that didn't care they were getting out to, and just in and out of trouble, having odd-end jobs, and just not caring. I lost everything. So connections with my ex-wife, my kids, you know, she didn't want them to be around me, anything like that. So those relationships are relationships still trying to mend and I'm trying to build. But completely lost. All I knew was how to Ranger and SF, and all that was taken at a moment. And it was just because stuff I did, but it wasn't stuff I did on my own. I believe it was stuff that was built up, and just they didn't care. The command didn't care, and that's what they did. They would let the guys go, and that's it, we're done. You're shit bag. Nothing else you did mattered, you know.
Okay. So well, before we move on from that, let's go ahead and take a break.
Okay.
All right. So you've just been kicked out.
Yes. Okay.
And you're bouncing around from dead-end job to dead-end job, and he said you were getting in some trouble and things like that.
Here in Fayetteville?
Yes, here in Fayetteville. So, just hanging out with some people who didn't care, some people who just don't care. We want to drink, fight. That's all we were doing.
These are people that you knew before you got out?
Yep. Okay. Some guys, Ranger Battalion guys, some SF guys, some guys were still in, and they still were living their life, but still partying, It's amazing how many people I'm like, oh my God, you do cocaine and you're still in? I was like, holy crap. I was like, maybe I should have done cocaine. I would have been in too, instead of drinking. But it's one of those things. It's like, just, nobody cared. Nobody really wanted to be concerned. The door.
Yeah. trying to be subtle about it. But.
Hey, you, the door. So it was just, I was lost. I was a lost soul, and some people can see it, and I hear about it.
Well, your purpose, direction, and motivation has just been stripped from you in the process of 6 months.
Yep. So I met a good friend on the way out as well. He got out, good terms, whatever. And so we'd party in the same areas and stuff. And then I saw him in the basement of Womack when we were getting out. And I saw him again in the bar, and then we just started talking. He was a 13 Bravo from the 82nd, named Barry Barker.
Artillery. Yeah.
Yep. And we just clicked, became good friends, and became part of the crew I was hanging out with. But he wasn't more into getting in trouble. He was still just drinking and partying just like we were, and we would do jobs together. I would find him jobs, like bartending, and none of us knew how to bartend. So it was like no matter what you came to the bar for, you were going to get a Jack and Coke and a Bud Light. Like, I want a 7 and 7. Like, what's a 7 and 7? It's like, what is a 7 and 7? I don't know. Just put 7 different things in it. Let's call it a day. Turns out it was 7 Up and Seagram 7. So but we came up with our own.
So if Dan wanted to go get one of his Grey Goose apple teenies, you would not have been the guy to go to?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
I've never had an apple teeny in my life.
But yeah, so that, Barry Barker, great friend of mine, other people were all hung out. He eventually moved back to Seattle, wanted to be with his parents, closer to his brother and sister, became a commercial diver, underwater welder. And
this is the same guy you were telling us before we were recording.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Well, no, was it? I was telling you a story about commercial diving underwater.
Yeah, I think that was in South Carolina.
No, that was about me.
Yeah.
That was my story when I went there. So this all ties in together.
Okay.
So he became a commercial diver, underwater welder, and eventually, his demons caught up with him, his experience in Iraq, and I never knew about him. I've never, besides drinking and, we'd laugh, and he was one of the only persons that made me laugh. And hysterically, and he ended up, committing suicide, killing himself. And I was back home. He's been gone for about a year or so. been doing some contracting, and I was supposed to go see him, and I didn't. I came home for my daughter's birthday instead, you know, and when he killed himself, you know, it was something that I was like, wow, he's my best friend. And if you call somebody your best friend and you're not there for them, you're not really their best friend. You know, April 4th, 2015, that was when he passed away. And that's when I realized I need to do something. I need to fix myself. I need to fix my life. You know, I'd already been through some enormous, you know, issues and problems. And I was like, I got to fix myself. To get myself out of this, I'm going to do something. And so it took some time, you know, rebuilding myself. And I want to say, like, it was like I burned Fayetteville down, burned it down, or I burned through it. And now it was time for me to fix myself and build myself back up. And the next year, March of 2016, I started with the Purple Heart parking sign. So basically, it was really started because I wanted a Purple Heart parking space at the gym, because I went to the gym one day and I had to park all the way in the back. And so when I walked all the way to the front, I was tired, and I told the manager, I said, hey, you need to put a Purple Heart parking space up here in the front because I'm tired and I don't do cardio. And he was like, that sounds like a great idea, Rick. I was like, yes, it is. He was like, well, yeah, figure out how it works. I was like, oh, well, I didn't want to do it.
No, I meant somebody else.
Yeah. I was like, what the hell, you know?
I was delegating to you.
Yeah, so I had been part of the chapter here, Purple Heart Chapter 226, you know, and went to them. I said, hey, I need one of them signs, you know, so I could put it out in my gym, and it needs to be double-sided. It's like, well, we don't do double-sided. I was like, all right, well, I'll do 2. And then he's like, okay, so he gave me 2. And I had these signs for about a week or so, and I was just going to put them up and just have the signs there. And then I thought to myself, you know, I need to do something with these signs. Dedicate a name to these signs instead of just putting it up. And that's what I did. So I got a gold plate, put their rank, name, date of birth, date of departure, and put it on the sign. It's one of those things in the military, it don't matter what it is, you put a gold plate on it, it means something. It just has that meaning. I put a gold plate on this plastic bottle with someone's name, and they're like, oh, it's forever, right? So that was the meaning behind putting the name on there. And I put 2 names that I knew, was Chief Cantrell and then my best friend's brother, who was a 3rd group guy that died. And we go to different places, different bars. So I go to Hooters, Kickback Jacks, you know, and I'm just like, I'm in Kickback Jacks one day, and I'm talking to my buddy. I'm like, hey, what do you think about a Purple Heart parking sign out here? He's like, oh man, that's a great idea. How does it work? And I was like, well, right now I'm just putting names on it. We just got to give me a name. And I was like, and he gave me a name, and, you know, and I was like, all right, we'll get permission first from the family. And we did. Got permission from his best friend, another friend, 2 guys who I served with in Ranger Battalion, knew this guy from 7th Group. And then we did another one out of Hooters. I was like, hey, what do you think about this here? Boom. So we had about 6 signs going up in 2 weeks. And I was just like, oh, wow, okay. So 2 days before the sign was going up, which we were just going to go put them up, I just got a couple of buddies that ride bikes, and we were going to drive and just place these signs up. One of my friends was like, hey, Rick, you know the family's coming out for that sign. I was like, oh, are they? I was like, yep, they are. I was like, oh, I guess I should put something together. And this is where my ANOC kicked in, because I did go to ANOC. I was like, all right, put together this presentation. And I put together this presentation, which is the foundation presentation for what I do, for my run, for the parking sign dedication. And we did it. We put it up, put 6 signs up. Eventually I had a falling out with the Purple Heart people. They just want to just do things, you know, that weren't really productive. And you know, I just didn't. So I kind of left them. And I revamped the sign. And I said, hey, how can we put something on this sign where somebody can know about them without just looking up their names or something? And we're like, oh, put a microchip. Put this bell on here. Put something. And I'm just like, oh, I can't figure it out. So I ended up at this fast sign place. And I come across the QR code.
QR codes, yeah.
Came across the QR code 9 years ago. I should have invested in it then. But 9 years ago, nobody knew about the QR code. I said, what is this? She goes, oh, it's like the new barcode. I was like, oh. She's like, you scan it, but whatever you attach to it, that's what's going to come up. I was like, really? Oh, can you put a link to it, or what? Can you put a story behind it? Whatever you want. I was like, well, how do you do it? And at that time, you had to have a QR code generator and a QR code reader, 2 separate apps.
Yeah.
One to create it, one to read it.
It's a lot easier now,
Yeah, your phone will automatically do it now. And I was just like, oh, so I did it. So I was like, okay, cool. So I created my first one, and I would let my friends know. I say, hey, I need you to download QR code reader. And I was like, pull it up in my phone, and then they would scan it. And it would like, I said, what does it say? It says EAD. I was like, oh, it works. It works. Yes. So that's how I created it. Revamped the signs from Purple Heart to Reserve Veterans, Reserve First Responder. It's blue. It has the American flag in the center. Center of that is whatever organization or unit the person is part of, and the QR code at the top.
Are these all KIAs?
KIA, combat, suicide. As long as you serve in those things, you serve and you passed away.
But none of them are still alive as well.
Nobody's still alive.
Got it.
No.
Okay.
I've had his friends that want to sponsor mine, and I'm like, gotta wait till I'm gone. Gotta wait till I'm gone, and then you can put it up at the Waffle House. So redid all the signs that we originally did and put QR codes on them. At one point, I was doing stickers, so I'd just go around and put stickers on them. And then I figured out you can print them all together. So changed the whole, got away from Purple Heart. We still have a few original Purple Hearts up. If you go to Hooters, that's one of our original Purple Hearts. If you go to Kickback Jack's, our original Purple Heart. I think something Twisted Grapes out in
that's out near Millstone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So those have like the originals. I've been meaning to take them down and replace them, give them to the families, and then put the new ones up. But yeah, so I started that, and boom, that started in March of 2016. Then May comes along. May 3rd is my birthday. May 5th is Barry's birthday. So May 1st was a Sunday, 2016, and I said, hey, I want to do something. I want to do something for Barry, for suicide. 22 veterans a day was going on. 22 people were doing 22 push-ups. Mission 22 was out there, and I'm just like, well, let's do something else. Because everybody's doing these push-ups and getting up and not, oh, look at me, I did 22 push-ups. Oh, I'm done. Come on, man. So one thing I always enjoyed doing was stress shoots and running in BDUs, with body armor and then shooting. So I was like, hey, let's put on our body armor. Let's run in BDUs or whatever we got and run 2.22 miles, wear body armor, put the name tape of those that we lost to suicide. At that time, Barry Barker was the only name. And that's what we did. 55 people showed up on this rainy Sunday. 54 of us wore Barry Barker's name, and we ran in his honor, came back and did 22 push-ups. 22 push-ups is a lot different after running 2.22 miles. I mean, for some people it's still ease, but like for us it's different. So that's what I wanted to get out there was, hey, carry that stress, that body armor, feel what it feels like to carry and what they go through, show that you can run with your brothers and sisters and bring them back with you and still do all this. So that was the start of that. We did it about 3 years out there on Hope Mills Road. If you're familiar with Hope Mills Road, you know where True Fit Gym is?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that green patch out there? Yep. That's where we did the run and the push-ups. We run down to the daycare across from Carson Baker. That was our turnaround, and we come back. Did it, like I said, for about 3 years out there. 4 years out there, 3 years in Rayford, 1 year. So in our 4th year, teamed up with the all-veteran group parachute team. We brought a little bird in. So we had a jump team jump on that piece of grass right there. That little piece of grass right there. They jumped in and carried a 22-a-day flag, the American flag.
Can't do that with a T10.
Yeah. I mean, I know. I think I can. I just jumped a couple months ago. But yeah, and that was the start of that. And, next year we moved on. We went out to Rayford did out in Rayford for 3 years, and it was like, well, you know, the city started to get involved. You know, we were meeting city council people, assistant chief of police, and then they were like, man, you should bring this to Fayetteville. You know, I'm like, well, you know, I'm out here doing it for free out here. All I pay is for porta potty and for them to cut the grass. It's hot as ever because you're in an airfield. We're at Rayford Drop Zone.
Yep. No, well.
So eventually we're like, okay, you want it out here? You got to work with us, you know? So we did it in Festival Park. They'd be like, all right, well, this is the cost for your event fee. I was like, nah, okay. I'm going to call my mama, you know, councilwoman. And because she made this promise to me, you have it here, we'll take care of it. So she makes a phone call. They take care of it, you know? Oh, hey, you got to pay for this. No, I'm going to call this person because they promised me that if I would do it here, we wouldn't really pay anything, you know. Eventually the city will get their money. So we had to pay electrical and water. So that's fine because I'd put aside probably about $1,500, you know, by doing it there first, you know. And the police department was in on it, and they sponsored the officers that covered it. So it was great. It was great. It was a success. And, you know, and I said we had about 1,500 runners last year. Foot traffic, my buddy says about 3,600 people. You know, and then that doesn't count the 2 days. It's a 2-day event. One thing closing out with that is 1,500 people, 55 people. Those numbers matter for the visibility of suicide and what we're trying to accomplish, bringing it to the city and all that. But what matters is the one life that we save.
Yeah.
Okay, yep. The one life that we save. That's what matters, and that's where we're at. Go back, you know, so I created the run, 16. Then it was boom, moving on from there, you know, trying to rebuild my life, trying to do things, you know, get my driver's license back, do this, you know. And just to recap, went to college, got my degree in welding technology, went to Charleston because Barry's mom made me a promise that if I had a 5th year of the run, she was going to come out and bring his helmet. So after I graduated college here at Fayetteville Tech, I said, hey, I'm going to be a commercial diver, underwater welder. Everybody's like, you don't even like water. I was like, no, I don't. I hate my bathtub because it fills up with water. But Barry's mom made me a promise, and I'm going to do this. So I went to commercial dive school, underwater welding school, in Barry's memory. And I finished it, completed. I never dove. You know, I actually, 2 weeks before I graduated, the school said, they were like, hey, what are you going to do when you graduate? I was like, I ain't diving. You ain't putting me back in that water. I ain't going back in there. They was like, we knew that. So they were standing up a residence program, and they asked me, hey, you'd be a good fit for this. I was like, what is it? And they was telling me, and I was like, oh, it's like being a platoon sergeant. He's like, you can stand up the program, run the program until you go to your advanced courses. I went to ROV, which is Remote Operational Vehicle Underwater, for a month, learned that. Then I went to Advanced Underwater Welding, did that. Then I left all that, and I moved back to Fayetteville. So I did that, 5th year of the run. I had a helmet. My whole school actually came up for the run. Barry's dive helmet was sent to me when he passed away. His mom didn't know. And so I took control of it, and I got it stripped down, painted with his name, his date of birth, date of departure, his Boy Scout troop number. I did some digging on him, his OEF deployments, his dive school, and you know, I'll show you pictures of it. And I flew it out to his mom. Even though I was on house arrest, they let me go, and they let me fly it out to Seattle and present it to his mom. And she was like, the first thing she said, she goes, oh, that's where his helmet went. I go, oh, yes, here it is. She goes, yeah, I was looking for that because I was going to sell it to give his grandfather back the money he borrowed from him to get it. I was like, oh. He was like, well, I'm glad you made this decision for me, Rick. I was like, I feel bad. And then, you know, but she looked at the helmet, and she fell in love with it. It's his thing. So when she came for the run the 5th year, she brought his helmet. My whole team came, my whole school team came, and we put a helmet I dove with next to his helmet. And that was the goal for that. You know, we talk about, you know, I got my SF tab reinstated 3 years ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was just something that I never really cared to pursue. because just like we talked about with the discharge earlier, trying to get that upgrade and running into all these blocks and these different people with great ideas, but nobody really wants to follow through on it. So kind of gave up on that. And I was doing so much, but I would get so much, judgment from the community. You got kicked out, you're a piece of crap, you don't have an SF tab. And I was telling them when they talk crap, I say, hey, well, when you took my SF tab, you could have took these bullet wounds too. They're so quick to out and throw people away, until they find themselves in that position.
Yeah.
Or they get that black eye of why someone committed suicide because of your poor leadership and your poor example to follow up on what a person needs is, and rather than what it looks good to you on paper. And but I, once I got the tab back, and it was done through a great friend of mine, Matthew Kruger, and I told him, I said, go for it. Good luck. He's like, well, all I need is just a letter of what happened, where you're at, what you're doing now. I was like, well, I want you to know what I'm doing now is not for that. It's not for that. It's to prevent stuff like that from happening, for, to save guys that were in a position like I was in a position, and let the command know, hey, you need to do more than just, kick them out and wipe them off your books. So this is what we're doing. We're trying to save and help guys from going through the same process that most of us gone through, and some of us haven't survived, took their own life because you have taken everything that they have, their purpose, and you have thrown it all away. So now they don't have a purpose, and they kill themselves. That's one of the main things is that. But once we did it, we did a ceremony, a reading of the orders, and, a weight was lifted off me. And I was like, wow, and all my friends were there, true friends and stuff like that. And then yet you still had the community, well, you shouldn't have got it taken away anyway. And I say, you know what? You can eat a...
You know what?
You know what? Because now I have an SF tab with an oak leaf cluster. So go F yourself. And so that, we're working on discharge, the rank, and, I joke around, and I was like, well, at this point, I'm the most highly decorated E1 right now.
That's right.
That's a very good way to look at it.
And all I imagine is those World War II vets that had 3 jump stars, bronze stars, and some of them were just PFCs.
Yeah, multiple Purple Hearts.
Yeah, legitimate. Yeah. I was like, that's how I want to be in the nursing home right there. When I got married, I asked my wife if I could wear my Class A's, which I barely could fit in, but I was going to take the whole rank off and just be there, and everybody would be like, what? It's but
it'll look like one of those stolen valor things you see on the TV.
Oh yes, I get it all the time. I'm arguing with some people in a Facebook page right now because I posted a memory of me with ACUs with my triple stack, but no airborne wings, no nothing, because I was actually a green ramp. And we were not going to put on badges and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Sterile.
Yeah.
Minus that, but which is Velcro was going to come right up. So people on there was like, well, you have all those tabs, but you don't have an airborne wing on. That's unheard of, And then, so they're all going to town, and I'm like, oh, this is great. And one buddy's like, bro, I see what's going on. I was like, I usually let them go because this is why I do it, because I want to see them go lose their mind. And it's usually some pogue or somebody who's like, where's this at? But, so that's the funny way I look at it, and it's good. And where my life is at as a 44-year-old male with the background that I have, I shouldn't be where I'm at, but I am better than I was 7 years ago. I'm better than I was 5. I'm better than I was 3. I'm doing better than I was last year. And every year is a progression, and an example of resiliency. And resiliency is to quickly overcome a bad situation or something not favorable. And when I say that, I take out the word quickly, because when you go through bad situation or something that's not favorable, it takes time.
Yeah.
It takes time to get back to where you're at, if you ever get back there. But nothing happens quickly when something bad happens. It takes time. So so when I speak about stuff, resiliency, I speak like that. Happily married, started a mobile welding company, been driving forklifts for 2 years, switched over, and now I do security for the company. I do public speaking, we got the run as a success. We got 93 signs across the country, honoring our veterans, first responders. So it is just doing something, being busy, staying busy, and just trying to help as many people as we can, being the boots on the ground.
Purpose.
Yes, purpose. And, we say, hey, with a purpose, you don't need an alarm clock to wake up. When we were in the military, some of us will wake up 10 minutes before their alarm clock.
Oh, yeah.
Now you're not setting an alarm clock and you're just sleeping, But if you have a purpose, you don't need an alarm clock to wake up. Yeah. And that's where it's at in life right now.
All because you got winded from parking way back in the parking lot of the gym.
That's it. That's really how that started.
So cardio is overrated.
Yes. I believe cardio is overrated.
I run once a year, and that's because I host it.
So everything that's happened over the last 7 years, ish. If you had gotten a closer parking spot,
that wouldn't have been a thought. It wouldn't have been a thought if I would have parked right up in the front, and it was like, oh, okay, So that would have been a thought, certain things, wouldn't have happened. I believe, not a religious person, God bless America, but I believe everything happens for a reason. Yeah. And we wonder why, I go back, everything happens for a reason. Why did I get shot, number one? Why did I survive getting shot to go through what I went through and then go through that process of getting out and bad things and then, different things to where I'm at today. Everything is linked somehow, lessons learned, this and that. I'm just like, man, I felt if you just fast forward me and skip a couple of those things, I could be good at this, really, really good. But
think, it's the same, applying the same logic that time at selection where you take the tumble and get out on the road. If there'd been a cadre member right there, you would have been done. But just as God would have it, nobody was there, and so okay, I guess I'm sticking this out then. All right then.
Yeah.
Or go back to your first time at RIP.
Exactly.
What if they had just said, okay, you're done, go?
Yep. I ended up
or your second time.
Yep. I ended up somewhere else. So I was just like, somebody has a purpose for us out there somewhere, and just the way our life is, and just it's a crazy path, and all I can do is try to progress every day. And I tell somebody, progression every day. And life is not a fairy tale. You're going to fall. You're going to have to take a knee. If you fall flat on your ass or fall forward. That way you are where you're at, or you're still moving forward as falling. So those are little things that, to say, hey, that's it.
I don't know if I could have said that better myself.
Yeah. Well, you couldn't have. But
touche.
So, obviously, your story is amazing, and I wish that we could sit down and go into more detail. But what are some things that you learned during those years from getting kicked out to getting winded at the gym? What are a few lessons, or maybe just one, from your worst times that you could maybe signs that you were approaching the worst time, or things that helped you get back on track? I mean, what can you share for people that are maybe in a similar circumstance?
Could be in a bad spot.
Accept responsibility, and the first 2-3 years, it's F the Army, F them, and I wasn't even thinking about the part where they should have assessed me more. I was just thinking, F them for kicking me out, this and that. So once you accept responsibility, and I say, hey, I made that bed. I slept in that bed. I've got to accept the responsibility and not be angry and lash out and just go reckless. So accepting responsibility is one of the biggest things with everything that we can do. And that was just one of the biggest lessons learned. I got to accept this. This was me. This is what I did. This is how I messed up. Everybody around you, and we talk about people who enable you and drink and stuff. No, you're still a grown man, and you still have the most powerful thing a man can say is no. No. So you're there with me. That's the most powerful thing you can say. Like, hey, no, let's go party. Let's go do this. Let's go find ourselves in situations. But accepting responsibility, and then another thing along the way is, when you decide to step up and do things and just step into a spotlight, You better be ready for everything that comes in that spotlight. Your past and all that will come up. People will talk about your past rather than what you're doing. And, the first 2 years of doing the sign dedication, doing the run, it's, look at him trying to make himself better. There's nothing he can do to make himself better. This is just for him right now. And, it wasn't a fact of trying to prove him wrong, because it wasn't. I just had something I believed in, and I had, the purpose of trying to save someone else so that they don't end up like me, and that's why we continue to fight. 9 years of a suicide awareness run, that's a bittersweet. But here we are, and we got to continue it. Suicide is big, and I sound like I'm repeating myself, but it's a big issue in the United States, in the world. But when it started affecting our 0.01%, which is our fighting force, and it was high among special operations, now it's a big issue. Now we need to figure it out, what is going on, and much on our level, it was trying to save lives. But when people start to get on the higher command level, it's how, they're trying to save their careers, and look good. Rather than save the soldiers, they were trying to save their careers. Oh, let's brush this one under, That's why right now there's suicides happening on posts, and they're not being labeled as suicide. They're being under investigation. And it could be blatant as you find someone hung themselves in their garage. Yeah, you can do your due diligence, but we all know what that is. It's a blatant sign of that. And that's just people trying to save their ass rather than just trying to fix the problem, And it's the leaders, the junior leaders that are seeing it, and they're the ones that have to step up too. You can't treat the Army like a 9 to 5. Especially if you're a leader, an NCO. You can't go home, it's 5 o'clock and go home, leaving that young soldier alone in the barracks, playing video games or just alone. When you join the Army, when I joined the Army, I came in, I latched on to my NCO, Staff Sergeant Red, and he became my new father, my new mentor. And, everybody in the Ranger Battalion, being FOs, we all got special attention. Everybody got special attention. And, and that was, we didn't want it, but it was good for the way we are and where we, now you got guys that are just going home, and you got this kid that's from, let's say, Nebraska, used to being with his family, close family. Now he's out here by himself, and he commits suicide. And a lot of people want to go back to, it's combat related. No, it's not. When the last numbers of suicide on Fort Bragg or Fort Liberty, whatever other people want to call it, was increased last year. And it was for non-combat related personnel. So they haven't been to combat. So it was other stuff that was going on there. The bullying, the hazing. I mean, that was all good with us. But, when you're leaving the kids alone, now they're all just going at each other, or just they're alone and being isolated. And that's the NCOs leaving it at 5 o'clock and saying, I'll see you in the morning, And even some of them see formation and don't even know some kids are missing for a day or two, which is sad. And those are stories that are going on Fort Liberty right now. So that's my learning lesson. Sorry, I went off on a tangent there.
That's good. Well, it's August 15th, so your run is coming up. So go ahead and talk about it, the upcoming one here.
So our run is going to be September 7th, 11 a.m. is TOT for our jumpers at Festival Park here in Fayetteville, downtown North Carolina. We will start at Festival Park. We run out of the park, down the road where all the American flags are, across the train tracks, into Segra Stadium, around Segra Stadium, back out to the park, and that's 1.11 miles. And we do that 2 times, 2.22 to reflect off the 22 veterans a day. We will start off with the push-ups at first. Many announcements. There will be food out there. We will have vendors out there. Importantly, we will have organizations out there. Organizations and resources that can help you with anything veteran related, first responder related. We had the VA suicide prevention team, they'll be out there. We'll have individual, personal counselors set up at certain areas like we did last year. And it's free, no sign up, no registration. We have T-shirts for sale. We're doing pink shirts for breast cancer, but you don't have to buy that. I don't believe, when it comes to suicide, I don't believe that you don't need to charge to raise awareness for some people to participate. Come on out. Be there. Be there because, it might not be for you, it might be for someone you know. Every interaction you have with another human being changes the course of the path of what they're going to go through. We talk about, you're bumping into somebody and that person's having a bad day. All it takes is you bumping into them by mistake and looking at them and say, "Oh, excuse me, I apologize, have a great day." And that can change their whole day, change their whole mood. And that's what we want, So just come on out. The Friday before, we have a meet and greet at Cracking Skulls, 822 Shannon Drive. Starts at 6. We'll have raffle. We'll have food, drinks, and stuff. And it's basically so we can meet the families, the sponsors, and the people who help make it happen. And then we'll do a quick, speech. We usually have a band out there playing and just kind of prep it for the next day. The next day involves, a Gold Star escort from Fit for Life Gym and All-American, escorted by the Fayetteville Police Department. Last year we had over 200 vehicles, motorcycles, fire trucks there to escort the Gold Star families in the middle from there to Festival Park. We get there, then we have our jump team jumping in. We have our presenters, our guest speakers is a retired Sergeant Major, Shelley Watson, retired Assistant Chief of Police here, Kelly Berg, two-time cancer survivor, Mrs. Shelton. So I picked a panel of all women because, like I said, one organization we're giving back to is Cape Fear Valley Breast Cancer Foundation. That's why shirts are pink. We're also donating to 2 K-9 programs, the all-veteran parachute team that does a lot for Gold Stars, and we got parachute team, the 2 K-9s, and the police foundation. So those are the 5 that we pick and we're donating to. So like I said, it doesn't cost anything to come out, but your presence can make a difference. That's why I say come on out. Look us up on Facebook, Man 22 Suicide Awareness Run. Our organization is called Through Tragedy Comes Light.org. We also have a Facebook and Instagram page. If you need to look me up, look up Ranger Rick, RNGER Rick, because the raccoon stole the A, so I had to go without the A. Ranger Rick the raccoon. But yes.
He's been around for a while, though.
He has.
He's been around since we were kids.
I know, but it's like my mom told people I was a park ranger. So people thought I fought fires for like 3 years.
I leave that to Smokey the Bear.
Yeah, right? But no. But yeah, but that's where we're at. And, you guys have any questions for me?
I guess just because that was just a lot of information. Just one more time. The time and place of the meetup is
for the run.
The meet and greet before.
The meet and greet will be at Cracking Skulls, 822 Shannon Drive, 6 p.m. Friday, September 6th.
That's Kraken as in the sea monster,
yes.
Not Kraken as in cracking an egg.
No.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Kraken is the sea monster.
Yes.
Not the Kraken.
You can get your beard worked on there.
Yes. Beard, tattoo shop, T-shirts. We get a T-shirt embroidery. It's a one-stop shop compound. It's what Chad calls a safe space. Yeah. So we have guys that come in there and you just want time to just come out, sit, and just talk to people. There's always someone in there. Me and Chad, we go eat lunch every day. We have a Facebook page called Hungry Homies, and I wear the tank top and he wears the regular shirts because he's definitely the hungry of the homies. And
okay, and then the time and meetup locations for the run on the 7th.
The 7th, September 7th will be Festival Park. Showtime, I would say no later than 10:30. Be there by 10 because the convoy will be coming in, and nothing sounds greater than a bunch of motorcycles, Mopars, Jeeps if they're not electric, and just
they have electric Jeeps.
Oh yes, everything. You ever heard of an electric Harley?
I don't think anybody can hear an electric
Exactly.
car. Yeah.
Exactly. Does not. No. They have Mustangs out there that are electric, but they come
I've
with
seen
sound.
those.
They
I've
come.
seen
They
those,
come with
yeah.
sound systems that you press and it's like. Ugh. But yes. So Festival Park showtime 10:00, no later than 10:30. Jumpers at 11, followed by Pledge of Allegiance and National Anthem.
Now, you guys started this run years ago, and you were wearing like kit or body armor or whatever.
Yes.
So the runners now, can they just wear whatever they want?
Yeah, they can wear whatever they want.
Okay.
We still, me and my friends and anybody else coming, they can still wear body armor. But that's why we have T-shirts, But you can come there, wear whatever you want, But any of my friends who don't wear body armor, they won't not hear about it.
That's fair. Tough but fair.
Yes, and that goes for you too. Don't show up without your body armor. You can walk it, you can talk it, you can run it. The point is to be there for it.
Dan, don't run.
Oh yeah.
Dan and I will walk and try not to hold hands.
Try not to.
Just run with me. And when I run, you run, and when I stop, you stop. So the thing is,
That's an old Ranger trick.
No. The flag. So I started off with the flag every year. First year we started doing videography and all that. The flag was me, start point with my friends. The camera was about 150 meters down first year. The camera is now 20 meters, and then we pass the flag.
Okay.
So then we become Sergeant Major crowd control. But yes, it hurts for me to run. Like I said, I only run once a year. That's because I host it.
Well, Rick, we really appreciate it. We really appreciate you coming
You
out.
have a great story.
Thank you
so much.
Thanks for sharing.
And we
you,
love what
guys.
you're doing.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Yes, thank you.
So, that was a bit of an action-packed ride.
Yeah. Yes, to say the least. Well, we'll let you go. What was your favorite?
My favorite?
If that's the right word, I don't know.
I mean, I guess it would have to be the redemption arc.
Yeah.
Although I did think it was pretty hilarious that his mom pretty much signed him up for the army. That was pretty amazing. But I mean, we've said it before. Not everybody's career ends like they want it to, right?
Yeah.
And his ended, pretty rough.
Yeah.
And it took him a while to get things together, but he's found a new purpose and motivation, and I'd say he's recovered pretty well.
I was thinking about this in real time while we were talking with him. He's the first guest we've had. Miss Jessica has her episode is a little different, but he's the first guest we've had where we didn't outright ask if they left on their own terms. Because I think at that point,
Yeah. Well, I mean,
we pretty much had an answer.
Well, I mean, he was very, very open about it.
Right.
Which is, I mean, he's had a long time to come to grips with it, and I mean, he said the first few years were
bitter and
bitter and angry, but I mean, he had some crazy experiences. I mean, just going through like all of his different training stops along the way. Going through RIP 3 times.
Ugh.
I mean, no,
thank you.
no, thank you. One is, I mean, if you fail it once, a lot of times, I mean, you're getting sent back to your unit with your tail between your legs. And for him to go through it 3 times, I mean, back to back to back. It's not like he went through it, went back to his unit, retrained. No, he stayed there.
Yeah, I mean, in many ways, it's almost optimal because it spares you the duffel bag drag back to your unit.
Yeah.
But
then
still
his,
the tenacity.
Yeah, all his different training events before he even really gets to a unit and gets to really experience the real. I guess the real army's not the way, but gets to an actual unit to start training with his assigned unit versus a training environment, and then he just kept on bouncing from one tier to the next. I guess even when he got to the special forces, he was in the signal detachment.
Mm-hmm.
And then to a B team.
So not straight to a team, which is I know what it's like to show up to a soft unit, and especially when you think, man, I've got to be a shoo-in to go straight to a team, and somebody else has plans for you. I've experienced that myself. So you persevere.
Yeah, he had he had a career of perseverance.
Yeah. I mentioned it in there, but he and I would have not literally crossed paths, but come very close in RCEs during Red Wings, during all that. For people listening who don't know Op Red Wings, that was the downed Chinook helicopter where naval special warfare in eastern Afghanistan in 2005, where many of the guys were killed, and then there was the team that was isolated that they made the movie Lone Survivor based off of the book by Marcus Luttrell. He mentioned Marcus in the episode. That's who he was talking about. So we were somewhat involved in that. I won't ever try to overstate our involvement in that, but we were kind of on the periphery of all that. So that's a lot of Afghanistan rotations too. I know you yourself have
spent years in Afghanistan.
Spent years as well. So
we talked about it because I asked him about when they noticed that things were going wrong at the key leader engagement before he got shot. If they had any sort of communication amongst themselves before they went in, and we talked about it, how there was just a knowing look and just
ineffable.
Yes, just you look at somebody and and that is the result of
rapport,
being that close. Not just through training together, but training at a high level for an extended period of time. And then even when you're done training, you're still, going out and having beers with the guys. You meet their families. You're around them all the time. And that creates almost like a mental connection with somebody.
You can't replicate that kind of connection in other types of units. And it's not their fault. It's just not the same. You just can't.
So
I love the way he describes we'll call it the Purple Heart experience.
Pimp down?
Yeah. Just making jokes. That's totally something I would do, by the way, is making jokes with them. As a matter of fact, I don't have a Purple Heart, but I've been seriously injured before, and I've definitely been cutting up with the medics while they're while they're dealing, because that's just kind of my personality type. So I totally get it.
Well, I mean, it takes all types. I mean, if you remember when we talked to Will Yeske a few episodes back, and he talked about one of the guys in his unit who lost a leg, and he asked the sergeant major for a peg leg, and he wasn't medicated at all. It takes.
You got to be a little bit sick.
Well, I mean, it's the gallows humor, but I mean, at the same time, it's. If you don't laugh, you'll cry, right?
Yeah, that's certainly true.
So, but he had a very colorful, in many regards, career, cut short, which he has accepted his responsibility for, but he's moved on with it, and has turned the intervening years into something with meaning and purpose. And that may be more impactful.
He has a good woman in his life too, which we can't understate how important that can be. So I'm glad we were able to get him in here. We've been communicating with him on social media for months, and I mean, he lives locally here. He's very busy, so we're busy too in our own way. But I'm glad we were able to make it happen. I'm glad we're able to get this episode out in time to kind of help promote the run. So. I will be there. Dan can speak for himself on that, but I'll definitely be there. Any parting shots?
No, I don't think so. I think what he's been through is crazy, and what he's doing now is worthwhile and honorable.
Yeah, one last thing for me, and that's you and I didn't know going into this conversation. We'd had some access to some of his papers, so we knew kind of that level. But it brings joy to my heart to know that he got his tab back, because I know how important that is. And I know some people wanted to make a thing out of it, and he said, I'm out here doing my thing for me, and I'm not doing it for that. I'm doing it for more noble reasons. And that's noble, but these things still matter. I'm glad that was able to be worked out. So,
yeah, it's important.
Yeah. Okay.
Free fire.
I'm scared.
No, you shouldn't be.
Is this going to be a question about superheroes again?
No, I'm not talking about superheroes. The Olympics has just ended. At the time of this filming, the Olympics has just ended.
Less than a week ago, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was this last Monday.
It was Sunday.
Something like that. Sunday or Monday, yeah.
In your favorite country, France.
All of the shenanigans that came out of the Olympics about the bad food and the sewage-filled Seine River that all the swimmers had to swim in and got sick in and everything, none of that crap surprised me, because France.
Well, the same thing happened in Rio.
Yeah. Anyway, besides the point. There was a big hullabaloo about breakdancing. Are you familiar with the story?
Yes.
Okay. It seems absurd to me that something like that would even be in the Olympics. But apparently, the host nation gets to choose 5 things to include in the Olympics.
Okay.
And then,
that are not part of the normal stock, is that what you're saying?
So
okay.
the next Olympics is going to be in Los Angeles, and breakdancing is not on the venue. So that made me think, what is a sport that is currently in the Olympics, whether they be summer or winter, that you would take out? And what is one that you would put in?
Okay. I definitely know the one that I would have put back in. Let me think about this. But the breakdancing, is this a imbroglio or a foufara? Or is it?
This is France decided that breakdancing would be in, and the rest.
You said it was a hullabaloo, and I just wanted
the rest of the freedom-loving world said no, that's dumb, and we're not doing it next time.
We threw the frogs a bone, and this is what we get. Okay,
yeah.
So
leave it to the French.
So one to add and one to subtract.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I know what I want to add. This would be in the Winter Olympics. Curling has to come back. Curling.
That was mine. That was mine.
You must think to yourself, Roger, I had no idea you were such a fan of curling, and you would be mistaken. I'm not. But come on. Speaking of Afghanistan, when I was in Afghanistan in 2005, I guess, so 2006, that was when, I don't remember where it was, but there was a Winter Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I would have been in early 2006. And we had the small, I was in Gardez, the small base we were in. We had a small amount of Texas National Guard folks that were there. They were the security for the PRT, the Provincial Reconstruction Team. So we were a young company full of 82nd Yahoos, but we had some Texas National Guard guys. So there was this older gentleman who was a specialist, because that's what you get in the National Guard sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the biggest curling fan I've ever seen in my life. I mean, he pulled out cards and photos. He's like, I'm part of the National Curling Association, and I'm a member of this curling association. And he was completely gobsmacked by just the how awesome curling was, and we were watching it on AFN on the little talk there at 2:00 in the morning. I just thought that was the weirdest triviality. He was a Texan. Yeah.
It takes all sorts.
So I would have curling reinstated. What would I have removed? I mean, besides breakdancing? Did you watch any of the speed climbing?
No.
Like rock wall climbing?
No, I didn't watch any of the Olympics.
So I'm going to have to go with that. I could probably, if I had enough time, I could probably come up with something else. But the speed climbing, just... they were climbing this wall in less than 6 seconds. So it just seemed a little short in duration for an Olympic event.
Fair
An
enough.
awful lot of hullabaloo, as it were, for an event that's
6 seconds long?
That takes 6 seconds, yes.
Okay. Well, mine is in that same vein. There are a ridiculous amount of track events. A ridiculous amount.
So you mean different variations of like the same event?
Yes.
So you have the 200 and the 4x200 and the
Yes,
5x200.
the 100, the 200, yes.
Those
and
are
then
still different events.
Relays and things like that. But there are far too many specifically running events.
Okay.
I don't care which one. Just take one out. It doesn't matter to me which one. Just take one.
Did they do the... I can't remember what it's called. It's a very, very long distance run.
The marathon?
No, but it's the one where they're also... It's done on a... It's also done on a track, and they're jumping... They're not hurdles. They're...
The one with the water obstacles?
Steeplechase? Yeah, that's the one. Is it steeple?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Did they do that this year? I didn't hear anything about it.
I don't know. Like I said, I didn't watch any of the Olympics, but I did just watch a funny video where, it was guys basically face planting in the swimming pool that was on the other side of the obstacle.
That's a highly technical term that you're using.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
But yes, we'll call it the steeple race.
So I said steeplechase, which I'm pretty sure is horse racing.
That's a horse racing event where yes, they do the same thing. They run and they jump over obstacles and stuff. But
so you would remove a running.
I would remove one of those strict running events, whether it's the 100, 200, 400, 600, whatever.
Well,
if it's over in less than 60 seconds, it doesn't need to be an event.
I disagree. The 400. I ran the 800 in high school, so the thing we would always say is the 800 is just as hard as the 400. You run it at the same rate as a 400, but it's twice as long, which is why it's actually the hardest event. I'm sure people have different thoughts on that, but middle distance, so 400 and 800 are brutal runs.
If it's over in less than 60 seconds, it needs to be gone, to include your wall climbing.
Okay.
Now, as for what event I would include, you stole mine for curling, and I actually have a very similar Afghanistan
that's
Winter
payback
Olympics.
for the pizza toppings. Okay.
Whatever. But yes, I don't know why, but I find curling strangely fascinating. Maybe because it's just like people running away from a rock, sweeping in front of it with brooms. It's weird. I understand the scoring and everything. That's fine. The concept of throwing a rock on ice and like having to calculate like the right speed and friction and everything like that. I think that's pretty cool. It's the staying upright while shuffling on ice, sweeping. It's so bizarre. It's so weird. I don't know, but I would add that. But since you took that from me,
you're welcome.
I'm going to say
break dancing.
No, God, no. It's so ridiculous. Bowling. Why not?
I don't know what to say to that.
Bowling. I mean, why not? Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if this is still true, but for a very long time, in pretty much any way we could possibly measure this fact, bowling was the most popular sport in America. I don't know if that's still true, but 70s, 80s, 90s, that was definitely true.
Okay.
As far as the amount of time spent playing, the amount of people that did it.
They're putting flag football into the Olympics.
I saw that.
I mean,
this is why we can't have nice things, Dan.
Yeah. So yeah, I would put bowling back in.
Okay.
Since you took curling from me, and they have some things in common.
I didn't take curling from you. The IOC took curling from you.
Whatever. Bunch of commies, one and all. Anyway,
they're not all commies, just most of them.
Everybody is, except for us and Belize, apparently.
Us and Belize. That's what we call a callback, ladies and gentlemen. thank you for hanging with us.
This is ridiculous.
It's getting kind of late here, so Dan and I are getting punch drunk. So we'll go ahead and land this wobbly airplane. Thanks for sticking with us for this whole time.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening to this really great story. Keep up with us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. We're on X, Twitter. We appreciate all of you out there, and you want to go ahead and bring us in?
And remember, your service matters.